The first half of the Showa era gave us some of the most popular kaiju, most of which were variations of giant prehistoric dinosaurian-type beasties like Anguirus, Rodan, Varan, Baragon, and up to Gorosaurus, all of which were following Godzilla's irradiated motif. Others were enlarged animals we are familiar with, such as Mothra, Maguma, Ibara, Kamacuras, Kumonga, and both giant octopus and the ever-so-popular giant condor. However, once King Ghidorah was introduced, the gateway to outer space alien kaiju became the norm for the latter half of the Showa era. Ghidorah, Mechagodzilla, and perhaps one of the more notorious of foes. Ma peeps, it's time I take a look at one of Bandai's earlier 6-inch Movie Monster Series vinyl figures, one that doesn't get praise or adoration like many others. For what was, at the time, a new sculpt after its disastrous 8-inch figure, the cybernetic space dinosaur from Nebula M Hunter 2004's Gigan. Gigan is a kaiju that is both popular, but also not, in my opinion, one who's truly lived up to his potential. A psychotic creature from the deep nebula of M Hunter, his origins are never really explained on film, but initial impressions indicate that he's 60% natural and 40% augmented, much like many people on social media these days. He's not a member of the esteemed Toho's Big Five, but skirts the line in terms of notoriety. He's been referenced as Borodan in the Godzilla vs. Megalon tie-in comic ad when the movie came to the States, and was described as a black chicken in the TV Guide when it had aired some decades past. Actually, more of a green and gold dino bird-like creature, Gigan is a living weapons platform. He's not shy about the aggressive nature of his upgrades. A bright red visor instead of 2 eye standards is embedded in his skull, topped off with what would be a laser emitter dead center on top. His beak and mandibles, horn crests, hooked forearms and feet, as well as the tail tip all appear to be made of some sort of alloy. But perhaps his greatest feature is a single row of down-curved silver hooks in the middle of his torso, the rotary cutter, which can spin like a buzzsaw and cut open his opponents and/or obstacles with ease. Making his debut in 1972's Godzilla vs. Gigan, the monster is summoned, along with King Ghidorah, by alien cockroaches that masquerade as people planning a children's amusement park, part of a plan to take over the world. Yes, this is a real movie. Gigan and Ghidorah begin their offense on Tokyo, I think, initiating the cosmic cockroaches' plans, but are foiled when Godzilla and Anguirus show up, and tag team the deep space duo. The final fight involves monster conversations, a laser-blasting Godzilla tower, and a set that barely conveys the theme park vibe it's supposed to be set in. It's a bad sign when I find that the zany human cast is more entertaining when compared to the sluggish, slow-moving action of the monster fights.
Hard bitch.
What's that? Just say that again.
Oh no, I won't.
Even Ghidorah, who is normally spastic, appears to be on meds, as he is terribly sedate. I recall my first seeing this on TV late at night when I was a kid. Not accustomed to staying up past 10 o'clock, my eyelids fought harder than Godzilla did to stay open. This movie, and the film that Gigan would follow up in, 1973's Godzilla vs. Megalon, are somewhat of a disservice to the really well-designed new opponent. Not only are both films absolutely plot-thin and silly, but the characterization of what would be a formidable threat is made somewhat a dim-witted, yet sadistic lackey. The costume in his first outing looks great, a sinister hybrid that gels together quite nicely. It's no wonder he's got his fans, he looks absolutely wicked. By the time he's called to aid the monster Megalon in the follow-up, his appearance has changed and appears less threatening. The best analogy would be that the knife has dulled quite a bit. Made worse, his childish antics like jumping up and down giddily and chumming it up with his partners and getting constantly clobbered in a one-on-one fight really diminish the visual threat he is. Despite all this, he would remain quite popular with children and would make 2 appearances on the Toho-produced Ultraman copycat show Zone Fighter. Here, Gigan is just as moronic in nature as before, but is now equipped with bombs on his hooks and a triple parachute to help him land. Of note, the show would mark the demise of Gigan after he fought both Zone and guest star Godzilla individually. The kaiju has endured, however, ranking as one of the top 3 opponents for Godzilla, at least in terms of visually cool factor, or returning for more than one outing. Merchandise ranging from figures, models, plushies, comics, appearances, and several video games have kept this kaiju alive in the minds of fans for years. Now, after that lengthy brief history, let's take a look at this sharp fella, 2004's Bandai Movie Monster Series Gigan. 2004's Bandai Gigan figure follows the amazing pair of 2002's Titanosaurus and Mechagodzilla 1975 by 2 years. And while the latter two are regarded as some of Bandai's best, Gigan sits between well done and mid. Focusing on the colors, this figure brings you all you come to expect from the cosmic kaiju. The leaf green base color is spot on and is the most dominant, while the secondary metallic gold complements in the most appropriate of places. Mainly the scales, including in its mid-torso and neck, back tri-fins, and under the tail. Silver is utilized to highlight the sharper elements like his beak, mandibles, hook, hands, and feet, head crest horns, and of course, his mid-belly rotary cutter. Absent is the tip of the tail, left in a base green color. Red is used for the visor and is vibrant enough, and lastly, light sprays of black grace his upper thighs and depressions near his neck that add some visual depth. Again, my compliments to Bandai remain true to his on-screen palette. Sculpt is also pretty damn good, and thankfully he looks closer to his 72 suit over that horrible 73 one. It is undeniably Gigan through and through, with every detail in place. His head captures the cyberpunk nature of Gigan, with the wide visor lens dominating the skull topped with a nicely sculpted laser nacelle, again unpainted. His smooth, shiny beak is flanked by mandibles and is probably my only minor gripe here. The beak is sculpted to look like it's opened, though not hollowed out. It gives Gigan a very rounded half football shape, and it loses that sharp hawk-like beak that I associate much with this kaiju. But if you look closely, you can see some of Gigan's razor-sharp teeth carved in behind the mandibles. Now, forgive me, my camera is unable to get a clear shot, but trust me, they're there. Lastly, those horned head crests like a dangerous mohawk descend down the back of his head. The overall body is portlier versus, say, his humanoid Final Wars look or even the slimmer Megalon version. His green outer skin features a suit creasing and is layered with those more armored pieces like on his knees, shoulders, and the lining around his cutter. The golden scales, as I said before, harken back to King Ghidorah and are well defined, prevalent on his abdomen, lower tail, and near the back of his fins. His triple fin wing membranes have that spiny frame, and at the base, a different texture is apparent. Nice catch, Bandai. Gigan's appendages all finish with a shiny, smooth hook or single talon. Even his tail, which is not painted silver, has it at the tip. Now, despite great sculpting, Gigan does the Bandai thing and features rotation at the arms or hooks at a full 360, as well as his legs at the thigh joint. Zero head articulation, zero tail articulation. Are we surprised? As an interesting note, it's pretty neat to have a fairly balanced figure in which you can pose him in such a manner. Most Bandai don't even offer that. It's probably more appropriate to pair this guy up with Godzilla 1968, being that was the version he debuted with in Godzilla vs. Gigan, but the 74 also strikes that versus Megalon vibe, to which these comparisons will be more centered around. This vinyl of Gigan skewers close to his 72 outing for the most part, as he doesn't appear oddly lean, have that blocky back of the head, enlarged beak and visor. The two size really well together, and I would imagine that most collectors associate him with his follow-up film, being that we don't have a Showa Showcase in hand as of this recording, but soon. All in all, this gives full cheese vibes to the 70s films, and we're not stopping here. Gigan's partner in crime, the Seatopian cockroach, also looks nice paired here. It's not Titanosaurus and Mechagodzilla good, but I'm happy with them both overall. I'll voice my gripes about the 2023 Megalon in a future review. Needless to say, both feel fairly basic, both in posture and vanilla details. But turning them around feels like I have a miniature version of the movie at the palms of my hand. Again, I see these two coupled up on the collector's shelves based off of their same trajectory. Yes, sir! Our guest judge is here, fists clenched next to his opponent. 2006's Jet Jaguar comes 2 years after Gigan, yet more synergetic in style. Perhaps it's the lighter, brighter vinyls, silver paint, plain pose postures, and smoothed out overall look, which has been supplanted by more costume accuracy and asymmetry in these days. I suspect both may have been designed around the same time by possibly the same sculptor. Again, like the previous two, they scale quite well, and now Jet Jaguar has his personal punching bag to sock and work out all his robotic issues on. In fact, while we have him here, let's task old JJ with his grading system. Four punches. A tough call, as while Gigan's vinyl figure hits all the right beats in color, proportion, and faithfulness, it is a fairly plain figure as well. With many recent vinyls from Bandai and Playmates, put some emphasis on costume accuracy. And this one does, make no mistake, but not to the degree of the stellar Anguirus 55. The very vanilla pose is acceptable, but when compared to, say, Mechagodzilla 1975's alternate arm poses, it feels a bit lifeless. In other words, I feel there's potential for a better take on this classic space beast. Yes, like Megalon and Jet Jaguar, Gigan fits in with that choice aesthetic. On the positive side, he's miles ahead of Bandai's 1991 Turkey. Good gravy, that was a poorly realized figure in both proportion, sculpt, and color. I could do a whole rant video shaming that thing. So there's that, a silver lining for what is a perfectly passable figure. What do you think? Do you place this figure at a higher rating than I? What are your impressions of this vinyl? And do you think it could have been better, or is it at the plateau and can't go any higher? Comment down below, let me know your overall review. Please like, share, and subscribe if you like my content, because I love talking about Godzilla, the Showa era, the vinyls associated with the various kaiju from Toho. Thanks for watching, have a safe and happy holiday, and I'll see you next year.